Welcome in here to Palmetto Sports Daily. We're talking some football, we're talking some soccer, even some sibling rivalries today. But let's introduce our Palmetto Sports family first and foremost. I'm Carmine Jame here in Greenville. We have Kevin Bilodeau in Charleston, Tegan Brown in Myrtle Beach, and Rick Henry in Columbia. And guys, of course, the Clemson Tigers coming off their first back-to-back set of wins this season up in the Northeast in Kevin territory. Shout out to his New England Patriots, doing great this year. But the Boston College team not as good. Clemson took care of them easily, 41-10. Big win for one of Clemson's players, Ronan Hannafin, who is the first signee for Clemson from the state of Massachusetts since 2015. Christian Wilkins, the All-American, still playing in the NFL, so he's having a good career. So Ronan Hannafin, not only did he get a win up in his home state, he also got a win over his own family and Shane Hannafin, who's a backup quarterback on Boston College, so he got a win over his brother. They're one of 5 brothers, so God bless their mother who raised all 5 sons. Dan Hannafin, the father, telling me that they used to do hurricane drills in the living room. They would have the kids run at Dan as fast as possible, and then he would give them a 1 to 5 hurricane rating of how hard their hit was. So definitely some tough kids. Shane used to throw touchdown passes to Ronan in high school because they're only 1 year apart. And Dan Hannafin is quite the athlete as well, which is why he was able to hold up in those hurricane drills. He was Boston University's starting quarterback in their final season of football, 1997, before the program disbanded. They were an FCS power at the time, and unfortunately they disbanded. But yeah, final quarterback in Boston University history. They won that final game. And this family showed out for the Hannafin Bowl that was taking place between Boston College and Clemson. They had custom T-shirts cut down the middle for the Boston College side, Shane Hannafin, and the Clemson side with Ronan Hannafin. They had custom hats, which are supposed to be in the mail from Dan, so hopefully he sees this. We got a story coming up on a full feature on them. Great moment between them, but let's toss it to Ronan and Dabo talking about this brotherly connection ending with a Clemson win.
Earlier in the week, we said we were trying to figure out a way to do something because they obviously come out the other side, and I guess he told me they're just going to meet in our end zone, right out of our tunnel, and I guess someone told me the security was thought I was going over do something, but they saw me kneel down with him, and then we said our little prayer together, and just gave each other a little bro hug after, and played. It was awesome.
The attire your family was rocking. How great were those?
I didn't actually know about that until, I guess when I got there. They had a little function before, a little pregame party, and they all had the shirts and the hats on, and hopefully they saved one for me. And I didn't get one yet. I don't know how that works, but hopefully I can get one.
Yeah, there were 200 Hannafins. It's unbelievable. It was a good time to rob a bank in Burlington tonight. I don't know if anybody was in robbery in Burlington. His dad's, the captain there, but there were literally 200 Hannafins. So obviously he's got a brother on BC team, but just an amazing family. And it was awesome to see. I got a chance to see a lot of them before the game. I think they all went and greeted the BC bus, and they all came and greeted our bus, and they all had the Boston College, Clemson shirts on. So pretty cool moment for that family, and especially for Ronan. Ronan's been just jacked up all week. So I thought he did a nice job, and the guys enjoyed it.
So, guys, just awesome there for not really the bragging rights, but more importantly, the brotherly love between the two. You saw them with the pregame prayer and the power of prayer there, keeping the security guard at bay while the other team can commiserate with the opponent, which, doesn't normally happen, obviously, special circumstance. So 5 boys. They got Shane at BC. They got Ronan at Clemson. They got their third brother who's headed to West Virginia, and the other 2 probably played Division I football somewhere else. But really cool. And Ronan, final thing on that, telling us that there were 6 vans and 1 school bus that transported all the family members from the tailgate to the game. And like I said, we got a full story coming up on Fox Carolina. But hey, Kevin, sibling rivalries, bringing it to us. Do you have a victorious moment in a sibling rivalry to share?
every moment I have is a victorious moment in my sibling rivalry. There is no rivalry. It's only a rivalry if the other side wins every now and then. But Carmine, you're wrong about one thing. The bragging rights is what's most important here, not the brotherly love. It's the bragging right. You know how long Ronan's going to be able to hold this over his brother's head? Like for the rest of his life. It's going to be brought up in the group chat every week. Every time the brother says, hey, can I pick what we go to for dinner tonight? Let's go to hibachi. Ronan's going to say, no. Clemson beat you guys. We're going to Italian. So he's going to hold this over his head for the rest of his, at least college career, if not the rest of his life, Rick.
Yeah, I don't have any siblings. I'm an only child, but I did have a friend, Ricky Dixon. We went to school together from kindergarten through 12th grade. And when I was growing up, I had a cousin who nicknamed me Ricky, and that's what everyone knew me by, spelled R-I-C-K-Y. Well, my friend Ricky, he decided to add an E to his name and spell it R-I-C-K-E-Y. Why? Then his name was longer than mine. And we'd compete in stuff like, first and second grade, who had the best handwriting, who could make the best, alphabets, cursive writing, and even like when we had art, who could draw the best house and stuff like that. And even in high school, we actually had a disagreement and had a little dust up on the bus. But, hey, we made up, and we were friends. Unfortunately, he was killed in a traffic accident on December 31st, 1999. And, man, that was really hurt me when I got that phone call. But, no, it was, it was just a good friendship with a little bit of rivalry thrown in, especially maybe when we played a little one-on-one basketball. Carmine?
Yeah.
Well,
what a great way to honor your friend there, Rick, and glad that you can hold on to the great moments despite that tragedy there. I am also an only child. I had a lot of friends who I considered brothers growing up and a lot of that competitiveness. Tegan, what about you, coming from the only children here?
yeah, I have a younger sister, so we're about a year, 6 months, and 2 days apart. I know exactly how much. And we always went head to head. I don't think we were really friends until I went to college. But we were just so different growing up. She did varsity cheerleading and field hockey, and I was the vice president of student government and did musicals and all that fun stuff, which I enjoy. But, I mean, sibling rivalry is always a good thing, especially my younger sister's name is Taryn. Tegan and Taryn were the most Irish pair of sisters you'll probably ever meet with our red hair. So there's always some rivalry there, Carmine.
Well, that's great. But yeah, I mean, you might be right. I mean, I don't know, Kevin, you made a good point because the bragging rights could last forever. I don't really know much about that being an only child, but that's great for Ronan, the family. I'll tell you, the mom and dad were just overjoyed to have us there. We talked to the grandmother who was tearing up. I mean, to have 150 family members there and see your tree branching out into all those great blossoms was just awesome to see. So we'll be right back. We'll get back to the sports, but don't forget about family. We'll see you in a moment.
And welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. Right now we're going to talk a little college football, starting with the Gamecocks. The big news here in Gamecock country, Shawn Elliott taking over the offensive line duties. He was in his second year as the tight ends coach and the run game coordinator. He left Carolina after being here for 7 seasons to take over the head coaching job at Georgia State. So now he's taking over a offensive line that has had its troubles, especially with pre-snap penalties, and unable to protect quarterback Lenore Sellers, who was sacked 5 times against LSU. Now, so where will he have his most immediate impact? Where they're not going to change the offense. You can't really change the terminology that much. That would only be more confusing. He does bring that excitement, that passion, and you hear Shane Beamer, the head coach, talk about having a different voice. Well, his voice is very different, very loud, and you can see some of his excitement there on the practice field. But where he could have the most impact is the instructing, the teaching, the mental approach. Here's Shane Beamer on that particular subject.
We're not asking our guys to learn a new offense, but little tweaks mentally for sure. And then I think just how coaching is teaching. I believe that. A great coach is a great teacher. There's a different voice in there and there's a different style of teaching. And I think that will help the mental aspect of it. There's no question about it. Not that Lonnie wasn't, but just I tell our coaches all the time, just find, if a guy's not getting the material, you got to find a different way of teaching it. Maybe it's drawing it on the board. Maybe it's individual meetings. Maybe it's a PowerPoint. It's video. It's whatever it might be. You got to find different ways to connect with guys. And I think Shawn, just a different voice and maybe saying the same thing, but just a different way of saying it or a different message.
Now, I think Shane was also giving us a little warning on Tuesday when we met with him. He said they will have some negative plays against Oklahoma just because the way that defense is operating with Brent Venables, the head coach, taking over the defense this year. And we know what great a job Venables did with the Clemson defense when he was working for Dabo Swinney. So, Carmine, I'll start with you. How much of an impact do you think Shawn Elliott can have immediately on this offensive line based on the way we've seen them play through 6 games?
Yeah, well, I think as far as the jolt of energy, the spark, that can definitely be there. And I don't know how much that spark, it's like, does the bark match the bite? But in this case, does the spark match the bite? Although he was barking at the opposing lineman apparently in practice that we heard Shane Beamer mention just yesterday too. So we'll see if the bark matches the bite. But I think that energy, that new, hey, we got a new face, we got a new voice, let's pick it up, let's remember what our teaching is, that might help. And then 7 years as a head coach at Georgia State, he knows how to motivate, and he turned that program into at least, a decent program, and then joined South Carolina too. So I think it could help out. I'm not saying there, but I still think winning 1 out of these next 4 games or 2 out of these next 4 games would be phenomenal. But 1 out of the next 4, I think, would be a success. Tegan, what do you think about this change and the potential impact?
Yeah, I hope this change does bring a spark to the O-line that they're looking for. But like you said, this schedule coming up, these next games in the SEC are just so tough. We've been talking about that all season. We talked about it when we had way higher expectations for South Carolina and how difficult these games would be with, what we thought of the team then. And, seeing what we've seen now, it seems even more difficult for them. So we'll have to see, Kevin.
Guys, the thing I don't get, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Shawn Elliott has been on this staff this entire year. He has been a voice in the room. As the run game coordinator, I'm going to assume that he had more than a few talks with the offensive line over the first 6 weeks of the season. This is not like they're bringing in a guy off the street or a coach who's been, upstairs working as an advisor for the last several weeks. This guy has been in all these meetings. Why do we think this voice is going to come in and change everything for the offensive line? I don't think it's going to make any difference whatsoever. Rick, you would know more than me. What has he said to the offensive line over the course of the first 6 weeks that's going to be different now that he's in charge of just the offensive line?
That's a good point, Kevin. And really, I don't know how much he's been able to deal with the offensive line, because he's also the tight ends coach. And we can see how the tight ends play. And under Shawn Elliott, the tight end play has been pretty good both last season and so far this season. But I think there are certain things that he can do now that he's the offensive line coach that he wasn't able to do because that was Lonnie Teasley's responsibility. So I'm like, we're just going to sit back and see what happens, see if there is some improvement in the offensive line. Then we can point at that and say Shawn Elliott did make a difference. Tegan?
Yeah, we'll have to see what kind of difference it makes, and then we'll have to see any differences this weekend with Coastal Carolina because they're hitting the road to take on App State. And the Shawns are coming off of a very rainy win against ULM. It was a brutal weekend weather-wise in Conway. And, Tad Hudson went out at the end of the first half, the starting quarterback, with an injury. It looked like he just kind of flipped over the wrong way. We're not really sure what the injury is right now. it's an undisclosed injury, but we did get the chance to hear from head coach Tim Beck this morning, a non-update kind of update.
Chad, we're still in that injury recovery situation, right? Today we see the doctors, we get a little bit better feel of where we're at and what's going on. We'll have an injury report that comes out through the Sun Belt Conference at the end of the day, and we'll know more. But it's probably game time, I'm guessing, at this point. It's a juncture, and right now we've been repping Samari and MJ both, and kind of getting John Hunt warmed in the bullpen just in case.
Yeah, Samari went 5 for 15 in that game. But again, I do think weather was a big aspect there. He threw for a touchdown. And then he kind of brought a different spark to the quarterback position for Coastal this year because he led the team in rushing and he ran one in himself. So if we do see him in this next game, I really wouldn't be surprised to see Coastal kind of lean on him for a bit of running with this one. A really hostile environment they're going into. This is, of course, one of the biggest rivalries in the Sun Belt. The whole advice for Coastal players ahead of this one is don't take your helmet off when you walk by the student section because they might be throwing things at you, Kevin.
Yeah, and obviously going up against App State is way different than going up against Louisiana Monroe like they did last week. But as I see it, there's no reason not to play Samari at this point. I mean, you've got some momentum for the first time in a while, if not for this whole season. And, like you said, he struggled a little bit throwing the ball on Saturday, 5 for 15, 37 yards, averaging 2.5 yards per throw. But it was on the ground that he really opened things up, rushing for 86 yards and a touchdown. If nothing else, this guy has been a spark for this team. So why not let him start and let it roll and see what you can do? And if nothing happens against App State, then throw Hudson back in and start over. But it seems like if Tim Beck keeps talking about going back to the drawing board, this is something that was drawn up. And it seems like something they should just go with the rest of the way, at least for a little while, and see if they have that momentum.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see Tim Beck as a type of quarterback monogamous, to put it that way. This is a coach who's used multiple quarterbacks over the past few years. I mean, his first year at Coastal, they had Grayson McCall, then they had Jarrett Guest, then they had Ethan Vasco, then they had another one. Last year, we used 3 QBs. So, I mean, Tim Beck is not the kind of guy that just goes with one quarterback and is like, this is what we're doing. So, I really wouldn't be surprised to see Samari start on Saturday. I think it's just really the question of if Tad is going to be able to play, because then I wouldn't be surprised if Beck puts him in first and then kind of switches out Samari now that he's seen what he can do. But we'll have to see. Kickoff for App State and Coastal's at 3:30 on Saturday. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. We've talked plenty of football, but we're sticking with Coastal for a second and switching to baseball because head coach Kevin Schnall, he has his contract renewed. He's here through at least 2030, and he's coming off of a fantastic season as official head coach of Coastal. Now, he's been with the program for well over a decade, but he became the head coach last year after Gary Gilmore retired. And just to, read off some of his accomplishments here, Coastal Carolina had a nation-leading and school record 56 wins in Schnall's first season. They also won the Sun Belt regular title. They won the conference tournament, the Conway Regional, and the Auburn Regional. And, of course, they went to the College World Series, ultimately losing to LSU. But Coach Schnall was the first rookie head coach to be named National Coach of the Year by Baseball America. So, I mean, Coastal had to do this immediately. They had to keep him in Conway. And I think his dedication has really showed. He loves this community, the way he talks about it. He went to Coastal, of course. His commitment is here, and I think that, after last year, he's got a mission that he wants to finish. He knows what it's like to win a World Series, back in 2016 when Coastal Carolina won it for the first time. So, I mean, how could you not keep Kevin Schnall in Conway, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, this is a no-brainer for Coastal either which way. Sorry, Rick, I'll just jump right over you. But the thing this also protects the school because the the bigger conferences are going to come calling for Kevin Schnall, especially if he has a season like he did last year. So I'm sure there's a good-sized buyout worked into this contract that if he does leave for a Power 4 conference school, that Coastal's going to get some money back. So it's a good move for both sides. It gives Schnall some protection and some dedication from the school going forward, and it protects the school in case the coach decides to leave for a bigger job, Rick.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that Coastal is doing the right thing. Because when you have people performing at a high level, at a championship level, keep them around. Don't be like my Dallas Cowboys and let them go. Micah Parsons, Rico Dowdle, Jerry Jones, are you listening?
Sorry, Rick, I know you're having post-traumatic Cowboys disorder from the Panthers game that you went to on Sunday. But last thing on Kevin Schnall, $370,000. That's a pretty good life for 5 years. So he'll be over right around $1.5 million over 5 years. That's pretty good. Rick, I'll toss it back to you for another word on that.
Okay, well, I think producer Nick wants us to say this is all for this segment. We'll be right back.
Closing out Palmetto Sports Daily with myself, Chiropractor Carmine is what I'm going to call myself because I diagnosed Rick Henry's back-breaking loss for his Dallas Cowboys against the Carolina Panthers. Rick, how can you possibly recover mentally? You know, your son, your hat was down. It was just a tough one to come back from.
My Dallas spirit will never be broken. I've been a fan for like 60 years. Good, bad, ugly, beautiful. Dallas Cowboy fan for life. So no, and I'll be even more intense this Sunday trying to help them get a win. Hey, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll see you tomorrow.